You set out to make a good show. You set out to make the kind of show you want to watch. That's what uh, Dan and I set out to do. I call him Daniel. You know, he's Dan to everybody, but he's Daniel to me. So, but that's what we set out to do. And then you never really know, number one, how it's going to turn out, how close to what you want it to be it's going to turn out, or how people are going to respond to it. And people seem to like it. We like it. I think the show is a really good show, and you know, it has all the earmarkings of a kind of a quality show in a number of areas, and you know, it's a show I never get tired of watching. The cast is exceptionally great, you know, and we always knew that this was going to be a show that would be character driven, and if this show was going to be a hit, it's because the audience would have to have an emotional involvement in the characters, and if they didn't, the show would be short-lived. It wouldn't last. That's what we set out to do, and that's kind of what we did in large part because the cast is so great. They bring such life to their characters, and their characters are so real that you just kind of want to watch it, you know. And I mean, speaking of social media, I mean, I wasn't really much for Twitter and tweets and things, you know, but I loved reading these tweets after an episode of the show. I would go on just to see what people are talking about, and as the season went along, people just got obsessive about the show. Like the fans became fanatical. They really did get into the characters and what they were doing and second guessing, you know, this and talking about relationships, and I got a really strong sense that, you know, we're on the right track. I don't know necessarily how different we are in terms of a comic sensibility. I think we're closer than people think we are. It just comes out in different ways, you know? I can't necessarily write what Dan writes, and he can't necessarily write what I write. But what makes us laugh and a general comedic tone, I think, is pretty simpatico. He's a great partner. He's a really good producer. I mean, he's obviously doing great things in front of the camera, and his writing is exceptionally great. And as a producer, I think he's done an amazing job, and he's got the energy to cover off a lot of stuff, which I personally like because it gives me more golf time. But and it's all kind of, you know, working out. And it's all pretty, you know, pretty straightforward. There haven't been any haven't been any volcanoes, no eruptions, and it's smooth as silk right now. It's kind of shocking, but it's true. It's the kind of comedy that Daniel and I love, which is comedy that is grounded in reality, that's kind of grounded in truth. That's what we set out to do. That's what makes us laugh, you know. He came to me originally with this idea because the sensibility of the kind of show that he wanted to do was reflective of the kind of work that Chris Guest and I did in our movies, you know, which is kind of based in a very real world, you know, and the characters are quite real and the setting is quite real, and yet everything is quite funny when the comedy naturally comes out of character. And this show does that to a T. So the fact that we were able to kind of come up with and execute the kind of show that is what we initially wanted is great, because, you know, I'm not proud of everything I've done in my career, and some stuff, you know, you do because, you know, you got to eat. But when you get to do something that is so intrinsically gratifying, you know, because it's exactly what you want to do, and it's turning out so well that, you know, it just makes it, and the fact that I'm working with my son and my daughter, and, you know, as a businessman, patience and perseverance, you know, I mean, just trying to keep everybody on an even keel, you know, just trying to be the calm in the eye of the storm. Just, you know, this is a horrible thing, horrible situation the family's in, and if somebody doesn't keep their wits about them and try to keep a lid on everything, it could get really, you know, dangerous. Not having disciplined his kids as strongly as he should have.